Hey everyone, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Yogi Mueller. He's a leadership coach, speaker, and the author of The Great Slapping, a bold book about mentorship that challenges people to grow. With a background in talent development and stand-up comedy, he uses powerful storytelling in his Grit Index to help leaders understand how they really show up. How you doing today, Yogi?
Fantastic, sir. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Happy to have you on. This is a great way to start the week. You're doing a lot of awesome things. You're helping a lot of people. So there's a lot of folks out there that need to get to know you. So starting off, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
I am out of sunny Orlando, Florida, but if you look this last week, it's literally the surface of Venus. But I've been here probably since the late 90s. So I am a Floridian.
Okay, awesome. Well, you've been there long enough to have your haunts. If you have some friends coming in the town and it's not, too ridiculous outside, where are you going? What are you doing? And what's for dinner?
That's a great question. Normally when you live in Orlando, the last thing you want to do is the tourist stuff. But when everybody comes to Florida to spend time with you, they want to do the tourist stuff. So, when you've been to Disney and Universal all the time, you know those real kind of hidden things which often doesn't go involve into the park. So that's what we try. Why don't we do this? It's kind of tourist adjacent. It's not really known, but it's fun. So, I am me, and I'll get you some of those hidden places.
Well, that sounds fun, especially, if somebody's never been before, kind of the behind the curtains looks a little bit more interesting than, what they saw on YouTube.
Exactly.
But what about dinner? Are you more of a, hey, we're going to go get this awesome restaurant? Or are you more like, hey, I'm going to take guests and we're going to cook at home? What's that?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I do have a pretty extensive lounge and bar setup at the house. So I hear the bartender there pours better than some of the other places out there, and it tends to be cheaper. But I'm also a big fan of sushi. So I don't see me doing that at the house. So I guess it's situational there. I don't know, Anthony, if you were coming for dinner, would you prefer to kind of hang on the lounge and play some guitar and by the fireplace and stuff like that, and have some beverages there, or sushi on the outside? Because I'm having you over.
Yeah, no, my sushi experience is basically the golden crackers. Right, that's about as close to the sushi as I get. I'm not the huge fan of that, but no, I can't play guitar either, so I'll save everybody the pain of me just that. I'm more of a kind of hang in, play yard games, that kind of stuff if I can. But if there's a fun spot, I'm always willing to try different stuff. So kind of depends.
Well, definitely not when it's
Maybe the
120
sushi.
degrees in the shade outside. We're doing yard games.
No, like you said, just a couple weeks ago, they had transplanted the entire state of Iowa to the surface of the sun. So I get it. But no, I'm more of the, hang out, cook something on the smoker, the grill, a little Blackstone or something, yard game. So that's always fun.
Love it. Now, full disclosure, which this whole interview will be authentic and full disclosure, I don't have a grill. I know, right? I had one, and I went to grill out, and as I lifted the lid, something scurried on the inside. I'm like, nope. Close it up, moved it out by the curb, and within an hour it was gone. You know those little elves that come and take things that you put on the curb?
Mm-hmm.
I hope it didn't bite them, whatever was in there, but I
Yeah.
wanted no part of that.
Warning, something inside. So okay, awesome. Well, what can you tell us about what you do?
So I am the owner and chief craftsman of Craft Leadership LLC. It is what I like to call a bespoke, handcrafted approach to unlocking individual or organizational potential. Um, I prefer to tell people when I do it versus what I do. And when I step in, when people call me, individuals, organizations, two scenarios. One, they feel stuck. They feel that their potential has hit a ceiling where they don't seem to be moving forward. They don't seem to be learning. They don't seem to be in a culture that promotes and propels individuals and teams in that world. Or they're growing so fast, whether it's you as an individual or organization, where you don't have time to set some foundational things to help you build upon a solid foundation, especially around the areas of leadership and team dynamics, and just general talent ecosystems in an organization. And in that process, I've had an opportunity to really kind of dig into both organizational and individual worlds, and I basically uncovered the power of mentorship. And I've always been a mentor, I've always been a mentee, but part of my journey in hanging up my shingle of craft leadership has been really understanding the importance of that role that you play, both mentee, protege, or mentor, in helping you get to where you are today. So it's been a very cathartic experience. So if you're brave enough, if you're ready to embrace the grit, as you said with my grit index assessment, let's talk.
How'd you get started doing this? What kind of led you down this path? This something you always wanted to do? This was your plan in high school, or was it a happy accident?
Very few people, and I'm taking a guess, right? But in my experience, very few people like grow up and they're 12 years old and go, I want to be a talent development specialist. That's not even in the top 100, right? And when I was in school, there really wasn't, back in the dark ages, there really wasn't any degrees that you could get in talent development. It was just something you kind of fell into. And that's how I did it. I found myself in positions. It wasn't called talent development. It wasn't called learning. It wasn't called, investment or mentorship, but I kind of fell into those roles until I worked for the Walt Disney Company down here. Did I say, oh my God, there is literally a department and a title called these things. And that was what started that kind of passion for really helping people unlock that potential.
So you mentioned passion. What is it most that you love about what you're doing?
I'm a big fan of quotes, and I might throw a couple out during this chat this morning. But if you ask me what my why was, Simon Sinek is kind of a spirit animal to me. Is the phrase, and I think it's attributed to Nelson Henderson: "Happiness is planting a seed of a tree whose shade you will never enjoy." Love that. I mean, I think that absolutely encompasses everything in why I do what I do. Is I'm investing in you not because I expect the payoff. I expect an ROI for me. It's the joy of knowing that I've planted the seed of knowledge in you that may take root 20 years from now. I might be dead, but the fact that I actually had that opportunity to impart and impact you, absolutely. That's what I get up. That's why I get out of bed every morning.
Absolutely. No, I love that quote. There's a lot of great tree quotes. When's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. A lot of great ones. I don't know what it is with trees, but anyway, not to go down that
I never
rabbit hole.
quite thought about the arboreal origin of some of these things, but you are correct.
Well, not to make it pun, but it's ripe for it. But anyway,
How early did you say it was on a Monday?
yeah, exactly. Anyway, what does your average client look like, or what is the avatar? What are some of the pain points that somebody might be going through that if they're dealing with X, Y, or Z, you're the person they should be talking?
So it's the concept of being stuck and either unwilling or unable to truly realize what their full potential is. I always say one of the most disappointing parts about leadership is when you're working with somebody and you see these amazing possibilities in that individual and they don't see it in themselves. So I try to really, if through lines of questioning, through really digging in and kind of getting down to the base of things, helping them understand why they are unable or unwilling to truly blossom. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I did the grit index, and it's an acronym, GRIT, and it stands for get over yourself, reassess the feedback with honesty, invest in your improvement, and treasure the lessons and growth. And what I found is out of those four categories, you get an individual score. It pinpoints what are some of those reasons why you're choking on your own success or your inability to get there. And that's where I start, Anthony. The reason I call it craft leadership, and you'll see a lot of wood and dust in my marketing and sawdust, is because if you've ever worked on a piece of furniture, before you put the final coat of varnish on it, what do? You take some sandpaper and you rough it up. And I'm that's why I called the book The Great Slapping, because if there are moments where you need to be roughed up, where you need to have adversity, where you need to hear difficult feedback, where you need to have information given to you that runs agrain what your ego is telling you, and helping people understand that roughing is not the final stage. That is an ends to a means. I'm sorry, a means to an end and not the end. And I help people get through that because I think that's really important. A lot of people, and I tell stories in the book when I was hit with my own wall and inability to move forward. It's when you can grasp that and truly appreciate what even Socrates knew centuries ago, that the wisest man is the one that knows they know nothing, right? Unfortunately, we haven't really listened to him over the years, and that's where I like to work. I like to work at that core element.
Okay. What about power partners? Who do you tend to synergize best with? Are there any professionals or professions out there that you find a lot of ability to collaborate and refer back and forth with?
I find the world that I'm in, um, of talent development, Anthony, is probably one of the most supportive groups I've ever had the pleasure of working with. My peers, my colleagues, even though, especially in like a geographical area, even though theoretically we're still working towards the same customer base, there's incredible collaboration, there's incredible support, there's incredible investment in your success, sharing of information. And here's the bottom line, because we're all in a business about putting other people's needs ahead of our own. We're in the business literally because we want to help other people succeed. And it would be a bit disingenuous to say, well, I will do that for this person, but not for somebody in our business, right? Now, as you mentioned, I've been on the comedy circuit, I've been in that world, and the music scene as well. And there are pockets of great supportive communities, but most of them will stab you in the back for stage time. And it is not a welcoming, it is not a nurturing environment. In fact, I do talk about that in the book. And an individual, and his name is Dobie, was a credible mentor for me in the comedy business. And those are their bright spots. For the most part, you're not going to get that support. So I would have a Rolodex. I'm dating myself a little bit, but a Rolodex of individuals that I could pick up the phone today and call and say, hey, I am stuck with this client. I am stuck with this. I need some input. I need some inspiration. And I will have a plethora of responses back. And that, I think, is a testament to why we do what we do.
What advice would you give to a new or aspiring entrepreneur?
Be prepared. I will tell you that my journey, no, I like to say I was freed up to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams over a year ago due to a company acquisition. And that's when I hung up the shingle. So we talk about embracing the grit. Man, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to embrace the grit. You have to, because everything you do is going to be roughed up, is going to be roughing you up, is going to be, you're not sailing on smooth waters. And you got to be able to get through that. You have to be open to the possibility that you're not doing it the right way, or open to the possibility that you don't know everything, and open to the possibility that you're going to make mistakes. And the more authentic you are to that, and vulnerable you are to that, I think the more success you're going to be. I learned a lot about myself, brother. I still am learning a lot about myself on that journey, and really, accepting the fact that, man, I am a newbie. I am a baby in this entrepreneurial world, and I will open myself up to anyone that has information, feedback, resources, and I will take everything in, and I will reassess everything with honesty, because no man is an island, right? And it's talked about in the book, Anthony. If you think about why you are here today, you didn't get there by yourself necessarily. There were people that impacted you, that gave you opportunities, that invested in you because they thought more of you than you thought it yourself at that one time. If you embrace that, I think you will be very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's more than just a possibility. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to not know everything. I had some advice the other day that kind of stuck with me. It was something I had heard a million times, but the way that they said it, I was like, that's clever, that's succinct. And it's, you can't steer a parked car. Right? So you got to get going to make any kind of, changes. You don't know what you don't know. So
I
absolutely
love. Can I
fantastic.
steal that too? That was
Please
fantastic.
do it. I'd be a hypocrite if I say you can't, because I took it and I show no remorse for it. But anyway, so okay, awesome. Well, why you? What sets what you're doing apart from everybody else out there that might be doing something similar?
Two things. One, I've been there. I know what it's like to have to face tough feedback. I know what it's like to, at my age, still realize, somebody said, what would your 55-year-old self tell your 20-year-old self? And my answer is, you know nothing. You're a child. And then he said, what would your 75-year-old self tell your 55-year-old self? You're a child. You know nothing. And I think if I've been there and I've worked through the process to get there. Now, one key does not unlock every door, but I can help with some questioning and some really introspective kind of conversations with the individual to help unlock that. I've been told, Anthony, my superpower is listening and really kind of getting to the heart of matters. So I use that ability, that rapport building superpower that I have, because people tend to be very open and authentic within that first 15, 20 minutes of talking to me. I would love to bottle whatever that is, but I couldn't tell you what it is, specifically. And I care deeply about your potential. It is, if I see potential unrealized, that is an affront to me. And I will make sure that every fiber and DNA molecule of my being is dedicated to helping you truly see what you're capable of being.
Absolutely. I know we could go down all the rabbit holes and we could spend a lot of time talking about any part of this. And there's a reason that you wrote a whole book about it. So short of going through line by line and reading the whole thing in general, is there anything that I missed or that I failed to ask that you wanted to add?
Back to the concept of mentorship in the book, Anthony, I wrote it for a couple of reasons. I wanted to make sure people understood the foundation of mentorship, what it takes to be a great mentor, what it takes to be a great mentee. But I also wrote it because I fear for the future of mentorship. I see the experienced in one camp going right and the inexperienced going to the left, and without an interest of coming together. Whether it has to do with technology, whether it has to do with patience, whether it has to do with the receptibility of negative feedback and how they view tough feedback, I see a divergence, and that's going to be a problem. When you have a culture now that you can go into AI and type and get any answer for anything you want, why do I need to listen to somebody that's been around the block a few times? Well, the problem is that AI is going to give you the answer whether they believe in you. They don't believe in you. They don't believe in your potential. They're just answering an algorithm. Well, finding a mentor is somebody that is answering those questions for you because they believe in you. And that's the piece I don't want to miss. So if you're asking for a call to action, find a mentor and be a mentor on that.
For those that want to do more of that want to learn, how to be a mentor or a good mentee, what's the best way they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to craftleadership.net. That is my website. You have access to find my book, The Great Slapping, The Power of Mentorship. You also have an opportunity to take the Grit Index assessment to kind of see where you are on that level of receiving and doing something with the feedback you get. And you can also reach out to me for, if you need help with your organization or even as you as an individual. Let's talk.
Perfect. If anybody would like to get a hold of Yogi, do it. That's the call to action. Just do it. Reach out and have the conversation. He's the exact same in a one-to-one as he is here. You'll be better off for doing it. There's so much out there that a lot of us are afraid to ask or afraid to look for mentors or people to mentee because you can get just as much out of it as the inverse.
Amen.
You shouldn't be, right? It's been a long-standing tradition that dates back since people started doing stuff. And that's, the older generation or people that want to talk to the younger generation, that people that will, to carry that forward. So absolutely reach out, get the book, have the call. You'll be better off for it. So I'll put all this stuff in the show notes so it's super easy to find. If somebody would like to get a hold of me, you can also visit me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Yogi. If you or somebody like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate everything you're doing. There's a lot of people out there that would benefit from just the tweak in the mindset to just
exactly
go be better, right? So,
Anthony, it was a distinct pleasure and an honor. You are a harbinger of great stuff. So thank you for the opportunity.
Couldn't be more happy to have you here. So let's go have an awesome day and grow our circles, all right?